What's up, everyone? Jordan here, FitBiz Podcast. Those watching live. What I'm going to share with you today is how to add a low-ticket product or low-ticket program to your offer or to your product suite to add passive revenue. Before I jump in and share how to do this, I want to tell you a story. So I was having a conversation yesterday with one of our clients in IFCA, and she was talking to me about her low-ticket program. And she'd had this offer for over a year, and she was asking kind of like what she should do with it. We were talking about like positioning and how to scale it and all those sort of things. So I want to run through some math that I worked with her on, and then I'll jump into like how to potentially add this within your own business. All right, so let's break it down. So first, it was basically her price point is $100 for 100 days. All right, it's basically a 100-day challenge. She launched this a year ago, and she has 50 members at basically a $100 one-time fee. Okay, so if we multiply that out, she has sold $5,000 worth of this. Okay, now how she markets this, she basically markets it on social media. She drives them to a landing page, they purchase. It's basically your typical funnel. Okay, so if she has 50 members at $100, that's $5,000. She also mentioned that some members have repurchased. She estimated about 10. So let's say 10 at another $100 equals 500. Okay, so her total rev is 5,500 on the year. Okay, now let's say that on average, she markets this. We kind of broke down the math, maybe like 10 hours a week, creating content. Maybe, that also might include when somebody buys, you have to go in, add them to the Trainerize program, set them up in the community, all those things. But it is like the delivery is mostly, passive. And so let's say it took her, 520 hours conservatively to build this. So 520 hours, that's over the course of a year. So if we take the total rev, so 5,500 divided by 520 hours, that equals $10 per hour. So currently the minimum wage, I'm not exactly sure these days, but I think it's like $7 or $8 an hour. I know they're trying to raise it. But the point here is like you spend all that time and energy building something that is basically making you $10 an hour. And so this idea of passive revenue with a low ticket offer can work. It just depends. And I'm going to share with you like how you can get it to work, who it can potentially work for. But like if she just sold a 6-month offer, okay, let's say at $3,000, which is like pretty conservative rate. Our students are able to charge even more than that. But let's say she just, sold it again for $3,000. She would need just 2 clients to generate $6,000. And you would surpass the total years in revenue. I mean, you can get 2 clients in a few days. So we broke this down, and she was kind of like, yeah, I get it. So basically what I explained to her, what I suggested, I'm like, well, look, if I were you, I would go to everybody who's purchased this low ticket thing and be super honest. I would just say, hey, we've really started to assess here, and we've realized that a very small percentage of you guys are actually getting the results that you're looking for. And we realize that's because we've been missing a critical key component, really 2 components. Number 1, nutrition, right? Because it was just kind of a training challenge. Number 2, one-on-one coaching, one-on-one support, customization, the mindset, everything else that comes along with one-on-one coaching is the reason that we haven't been able to get you the results. So what I'm going to do to make up for this is whatever you have paid towards this challenge, I'm going to take off the one-on-one coaching. And you basically pitch everybody into a call. Again, she has 50 members. She converts, just 5 of those, 5 times 3,000. I mean, and 5 is super conservative. That's $15,000 via a couple of, text. All right, so let's break this down further. The number one reason that I don't love low ticket, one of the reasons that I think low ticket products in the coaching space are a disaster. The best way to make sure that nobody buys your high ticket program is to sell them into your low ticket program. What I mean is usually the low ticket program is a, cut and trimmed version of your flagship core offer that that core offer gets your clients the best results. And so when you trim it and you cut it and sell it for cheaper, it's reasonable to assume that the people who buy it are not going to get the same level of results. And so when they buy something and they don't get a result immediately, they don't blame themselves. They don't think, well, because I didn't get a result, I now need to buy the high ticket thing. People don't think that way. They think this was a ripoff, this was a waste, shouldn't have done this. And I speak from experience. We've sold a low ticket course in the past in our own market. We sold $200,000 worth of these courses. And we even told everybody, hey, if you purchase the course, you can take whatever you buy into the course, and then we will take that off your enrollment in IFCA. And we still have people on like Reddit forums and people who complain about us because they bought that course and they didn't get a result, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's a course. Like, it's on you. Like people in the course did get results, but those are the very small percentage of people who are self-motivated, who are disciplined, who just kind of get things and don't have questions, right? So the point number 2 that I think just high ticket makes so much more sense is because you're able to add an important piece to the sales process, which is conversations with humans, right? People are so much more likely to buy from a human than they are an email, a sales page, a VSL video or whatever. You have to be a savage at marketing to get people to buy things on autopilot, but you can be kind of a mediocre salesperson and, still get get people to buy because you're there having a conversation with them, nurturing them, building trust, having multiple touch points, getting on a call, converting them. But the reality is if you're selling a low ticket product, you can't afford your time to talk to everyone and get them to buy a $100, $200, $300 thing. You would just burn out. You wouldn't have enough time. But if you're selling a $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 product, you can afford to have conversations with everyone, get on calls with people because you don't need that many sales, right? And finally, point number 3, as Gary Vee says, right? As we move into this age of more technology, of AI, of automations and all these things, the people who operate more like the Flintstones rather than the Jetsons are going to win. So what he means by this is like, if you're in the health and fitness industry and let's say you have a low ticket product and you're not deploying high level service, one-on-one service with that, you're leaving so much money and more importantly, results on the table. So everybody's thinking right now, like, how do I automate things? How do I make things passive? How do I remove the human component? You should be thinking, how do I add more human component and charge higher for it as that becomes less available? Because when something becomes less available, the demand for it increases, so therefore you can charge more for it. So you should be finding ways to charge more by adding more human touch points, more human components, building relationships, right? Remembering people's names, remembering details about them, remembering that people don't care about how much you know unless they know how much you care. And so what will ultimately separate the coaching companies in this new era over the next 10 years, I think, are those who build deep, human, meaningful relationships and figure out a way to scale that. All right. So who can this actually work for? Well, let's break down some math. Like, let's say you have a pretty good size audience. The example that I gave you at the beginning of this episode, I think she had like 4, 5, 6,000 followers. So like, a decent sized audience, an audience plenty big enough to build a multiple 6, even 7-figure one-on-one coaching business. But let's say, for example, let's say you have 500,000 followers, all right, like a pretty big audience. And let's say your average reach rate of that 500,000 is 5%, which is pretty average right now on social media. So that means, like, on average, when you post about this, let's say over the course of 6 months, you're constantly posting and trying to sell your low ticket offer. Let's say that 25,000 people see this on a regular basis. Okay. Now let's say your engagement rate is 0.5%. That's people who actually will click on your landing page. So of that means that maybe 2,000 people go into the funnel on a regular basis. Okay. Like, let's say over a 6-month period, whatever. Or let's say that funnel converts at 10%, which is like pretty decent. That would be 200 people. So let's say your price point on this low ticket thing is $39 a month. That would equal $7,900 a month. That's 200 people who just bought that thing, right? Now, let's say of those 200 people, man, let's just figure out like what would happen if you just sold them into your high ticket thing, even a small percentage of them. All right, let me break that down real quick. All right, so what you're looking at here is basically a revenue calculator that's showing how much we can generate with X number of clients based on different price points and offers. So let's say that we're selling a $2,100 front end 12-week offer for 90 days. Then we re-sign them into a $5,400. So it's a cheaper back end offer for a long-term, let's say a 12-month commitment. Now, let's say that you do have this big audience. If you have a big audience like that, you can easily convert 10 clients a week into your offer. So if you sign 40 clients a month through the course of a year at just converting 50% of those people from front to back, you'll have a $2.3 million business, right? Now, let's say you don't have a big audience like that and we have the same pricing model. If you sign just 1 client per week, which is very easy to do regardless of your following, really, that'd be $230,000 a year business, right? So you see how the numbers have to make sense, right? And I have a friend, for example, Ryan Fisher, who's a good buddy, and I don't think he'd mind me sharing this, but Rock Chalk Performance, he has an app that has 30,000 members at $39 a month, and he's crushing it. He has for years, but I had a call with him the other day. He's like, man, these ads are getting harder and harder. It's harder to convert people. My churn is really high. See, people are more likely to cancel their Netflix subscription than they are their online fitness coach, because people tend to place value around what they're paying for something. And also, if they just go online and just cancel it versus like having to have a conversation with you, they're less likely to cancel it. So he has high churn, he's constantly having to add new members. So he's basically trying to add high ticket into his business, to kind of combat the growing complexity and just competition within these lower ticket subscription models. And so look, you can do this if you have maybe as a downsell, you're really good at sales, and this is just for people who truly can't afford your thing. You sell them into a lower ticket thing for X number, like that's fine, right? But I would not go out and market and drive traffic to something that the numbers just simply don't make sense. Okay. So again, if you have 500,000, a million, 3 million followers, like if you have 5 million followers, sure, you could probably get this to work, especially if it's super engaged and you're really good at marketing it. I'm not going to say that won't work, but that's only a very small percentage of people. And if you're listening to this and you're in that position, sure, I can help you do that for sure. But what I'm really better at and what we're better at here at IFCA is helping even just the average person who doesn't have large followings build highly profitable, successful businesses, right? So remember, guys, passive revenue is a myth. If somebody's trying to sell you on this concept of passive revenue, it's just a marketing ploy. There is no such thing. Now, sure, over time, like if you have money in the stock market and it's getting good returns, and maybe you have some real estate, that you have a team running it. Sure, but all that takes a lot of work in order to get to that point, right? There's no shortcuts. So with that said, guys, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you find some value in this. Make sure if you're not listening to the FitBiz podcast, you are subscribed. We drop stuff like this twice a week, every single week. Never miss an episode. And I hope you found some value from this. And if you have questions, you can also drop them below. See you guys.